initiated through National Health Mission. And coordinating ministries will be, apart from MHRD, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. To give a brief idea about school health program, we have Dr. Joya Ali Rizvi, Deputy Commissioner, Adolescent Health, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. So I thank Madam for agreeing for making this presentation. So we are connected to all our teachers, ma'am. Nearly some 400 heads of schools are there, and nearly
Wonderful.
2,500 teachers are there. So
Okay.
all are connected through web conferencing using Google Meet and all.
Okay.
So basically, I think our teachers may be aware of school health program, what kind of activities we have already been doing, like promotion, health promotion activities, health screening, and provision of certain services, deworming, giving albendazole tablets,
Yeah.
deworming tablets and all. So those
Okay.
you are already aware. Apart from that, Madam will give insights into the mental wellness and how to cope up with stress and other things. So I request Madam to start the presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Good
Madam,
morning.
before you start, I think let me have a small introduction. I
Okay.
think school health program activities are to be implemented in all government and government-aided schools through the joint efforts of, as our directors have said, close coordination between Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and Department of School Education. Okay, this it may include the preferably the timetable. There is some classes are also attached to that, and apart from that, the major aspect in this program will be two teachers, preferably one male and female, in every school designated as health and wellness ambassadors, will be trained and to transact health promotion and disease prevention in all form of interesting activities for 1 hour every week on health and wellness day. These health promotion messages will also have bearing on improving health, hygiene and sanitary practices in the country, as students will act as health and wellness managers in the society. I think this was the main aim of the program, and we had done a small survey on our local state issues, madam. I think Puducherry is a geographically very unique state where it has 4 different regions. One,
Yeah.
Puducherry and Karaikal in the southern part of Tamil Nadu, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yanam, the east part of Andhra Pradesh, and there is a small part called Mahe in the borders of Kerala, ma'am, in the seashore of Kerala. And with this diversified geographical nature, most of the parents' occupation in our state will be the fisherman community will be more than. So
Yeah.
that there are some social and economic factors where the parenting is the main issue. Why? Because once the fishermen get into the sea, so they will not have give their time to the children a lot. So there are
Okay.
some socio-economic factors, and with that, we are facing some. I think when we take up the data on national statistical data, we have
Okay.
little high rate of suicidal impact among the children as well as the citizens. And there are some issues like drug abuse and as well as alcoholic issues. So this is as per our statistical data. With this, I request Zoya madam to present about the program and what the remedies and what are all the school education has to do in improve the mental and social status of children when they get into the society. They wanted to be health and wellness messages. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Good morning, everybody. It is so nice to interact with the state directly, and I think one way webinars are so nice because I get to talk to so many of you at one time. So thank you very much. And Puducherry, anyways, is very close to my heart because I was there last year. I had gone to visit Tamil Nadu for the Common Review Mission, which we have in the Ministry of Health, and I stayed in Puducherry itself because I was inspecting the district Villupuram. So it was, I think, almost for 7-8 days we were there in Puducherry. So we got a good feel of Puducherry because we had to travel a lot within Puducherry. And like you mentioned, Malay, Yanam, and the southern parts. I think I had a brief look into what is really there. So it is really interesting that Puducherry is the first UT I'm actually interacting with regarding school health program 1-to-1. Okay, without wasting much time, let me go down. Many of you may be aware that school health program was initially launched by the Honorable Prime Minister in 2018. as an operational guidelines. However, we worked on it of almost 2 years with the Ministry of HRD to develop the training curriculum and the other detailed guidelines for training within schools. So if I just look at what is the situation and why it's so critical to have a program for the adolescents and the school-going children. So if I look at the situation of adolescent health in India, first I can see is, oh, wait, this has to happen something. Okay, wait, my yeah. Okay. So if you look at the data, you'll see that more than half of girls and about 30% of boys suffer from anemia, which is huge in our country. Second, we are still fighting the whole concept of early marriage, in which about 27% of girls and 21% of boys also get married before the legal age, which is 18 and 21. Teenage pregnancy continues to haunt us. About 8% of girls who are within 15 to 19 married, of course, data have begun childbearing or are already pregnant. And if you look at the contraceptive use among adolescents is only about 15% use any kind of contraception. Substance abuse, as you just mentioned, is very rampant in India, even though the data shows about 8 to 12% only of adolescents use tobacco or alcohol. But we have to see that tobacco and alcohol are gateway drugs to many, many, many more illnesses, whether it is malignancies, whether it is hypertension, diabetes. So control of substance abuse is very critical so that on the whole, you end up controlling the non-communicable illnesses. And like again, you mentioned suicidal rate is comparatively high in Puducherry. Yes, it is a thing to worry about because about 11 deaths per lakh is the incidence of suicide in adolescent. And if you look at the total number of suicide, about 7% of the suicide is in the age group of less than 18 years old. So that is where we are failing. We are failing to give them right information, right guidance, right information to these young boys and girls who are whether in school or out of school. So keeping this in mind, we thought that we will create new program which shows a paradigm shift, as I mentioned here. Paradigm shift means initially, I think being from health, we end up only doing something which is called the curing and treating, right? So if we shift from the curative and the treatment, we went to the preventive and promotive care. And we created this program, which is now called the Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram, which looks at all the components which are critical for the growth of adolescent, which is the sexual reproductive health, the nutrition, the substance misuse, injuries and violence, mental health, and non-communicable illnesses. So 6 themes were chosen when this Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram, which is the adolescent health program, was launched, and which shows that there is a continuum of care. So you have to look at a boy or girl as one whole life cycle approach, whether it's a small girl who grows up to be an older adolescent and then goes up to be a mother, and who, if is healthy, will give birth to healthy children. And when this girl only is weak and malnourished and anemic, then she will give birth to weak and malnourished anemic children. So it's very important to invest in the health of this girl. So the main approaches, which I think was just mentioned initially, is that health has always been focused on facilities. We have our health facilities, which are the district hospital, the CHCs, the PHCs, the sub-centers and subdivision hospitals, right? So when this program was being run, we noticed that there are certain facility-based approaches, which are the adolescent-friendly health clinics. AFHCs are also present in Puducherry, for your information. So these number on the whole in India is about 7,600. So what in this adolescent-friendly health clinics, we have put in trained medical officers, ANMs, and a few of these AFHCs actually have trained counselors. Now, these counselors, as of now, we have about 1,600 only, 1,600, which is huge, way less than what is required. But since HR is always an issue with all the states and all the union territories, we are trying to do multitasking for these counselors. So they are being trained in adolescent health along with all the other programs which they're looking at. So with these counselors in place, we have also proposed something which is called an adolescent health resource center. This resource center is something which will be set up at the district hospital, which will deal with the excellence, the best ways to treat with adolescent, whether it is going to be a center for discussion with adolescent, whether it is going to be a center where good material IEC will be available for access to adolescent, where the adolescents can come and discuss their problems, talk to the counselor or the medical officer. So this is still in making. Next approach which we had is the community-based approach, which, as was mentioned just initially in the beginning, is these various components which are already there. So both in community and in school-based, we already have the WICS program, which is the weekly iron folic supplementation program, in which weekly blue tablets are given to boys and girls, whether they are in schools or out of school. And Puducherry is one of the best performing UTs, I must say. I must compliment. They're beautiful. I mean, majority, more than 90% of children are covered in this, and huge hand and huge clapping should go to the teachers, because it shows that maximum number of children who are going to schools are given these tablets. Second is the deworming program, which is twice a year, February and August. Children are given albendazole, which was just mentioned when this program started. So 400 milligrams of albendazole is given to each child twice a year. This also Puducherry is excelling in it. Wonderful. Third is the provision of sanitary napkins. Provision of sanitary napkins is very state dependent. Puducherry takes funds from National Health Mission every year for covering girls in and out of school. So that information is with the state, but it's a wonderful thing that you are covering girls in sanitary napkins. And I will take a step back and let you know that it is more essential during these days, as we all are aware that there is physical distancing going on and schools are closed and anganwadis are closed. So the access to sanitary napkins to IFA is something which is really suffering in the adolescent girls. So I would really request some states have really gone done very well. They are distributing sanitary napkins and IFA during the field visit of the ANMs. I don't know what Puducherry will do. In fact, Jharkhand, just to give an example, Jharkhand also is covering the menstrual hygiene scheme by its own budget, and they're using teachers for distribution. So that is something, some call which you all can see how you can do, because the access to sanitary napkins should not really decrease during COVID time. That's very critical. The girl is anywhere at home. She cannot go out to buy. So delivery of these napkins, maybe for a month, 2 months, 3 months at one time, can be made for the girls who are at home.
Madam, just one point.
Yeah.
Actually, last year, one NGO by name Gramalaya,
Yeah.
through
Okay.
CSR fund, they have distributed washable cotton-based sanitary napkins to all girls in
Okay.
our government schools, government and government-aided schools in Puducherry
Okay.
region. So this
Okay.
year, they'll be giving the sanitary napkins in Karaikal region also. So we are covering
Oh.
all apart from education.
Oh, that's so wonderful. But tell
Yes,
me,
yes.
how about these washable cotton napkins? Did they actually work? Was there some issue? Because Gramale had submitted a proposal to us and we had asked them to approach the states directly, because we don't
Yeah,
procure and send to the state. But it's good to know. But tell me, what
yeah,
is the
ma'am.
feedback you got from the
Feedback is good,
beneficiaries?
ma'am. Feedback is good. Actually, what they do is first they educate. After that,
Yeah.
they give 3 pads in a pouch and all, so they
Okay.
can use it in a cycle. They can wash and use it in a cycle.
So these are given free of cost to the girls?
Free, free. Actually, through CSR support, they are given free. So we are not bought that, but they are given free.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's so nice.
I
So if you
think
can, yeah, if you can just send me a one pager on this, it'll be good learning for us to share with the
Sure,
other
ma'am.
states, So we can
Sure,
always
sure,
say,
ma'am.
Puducherry is doing this. Why don't you also try, right? So it's a good
Yes.
cross learning should be done. Wonderful. I'm so happy for you. Okay, that's good. So if I go back to the presentation, if I look at the peer educator program, Puducherry is also doing this program from the HELP. Is that peer educators who are in schools and out of school? So both options have been given to states, that they can choose peer educators from school or out of school, and these peer educators are trained over 8 days along with the local ASHA, and then these peer educators carry out sessions every week or every 2 weeks as suits them on the various issues of adolescent health, whether it is injuries and violence, whether it is nutrition, whether it is sexual reproductive health. So all that is trained. So this is another component which you're looking at. Fourth is the quarterly adolescent health day, which is also very nice, because this is one component in which the community or the schools get together. We have a quarterly, every quarter theme which is chosen by the state health department. I don't know how it is working in Puducherry. Is that whether it is, say, nutrition or anemia or teenage pregnancy or substance abuse, some topic is chosen, and then a function is held within the community or the school, depending on where the health is working with more. So this adolescent health day invites all the stakeholders. You have the parents coming, you have the, if it is in the panchayat, you have the panchayat elders, you have the local ANM or the medical officer, and amount of 2,500 is given for holding every adolescent health day. So what the ANM can do is actually also, to have a small film show, to do hemoglobin testing or a BP and weight testing. So all that small options are given to the state how to hold these AHDs, adolescent health days. Last is these adolescent friendly clubs, which are events which take place within the health sub center. Puducherry may be holding them. These are every month. In this, what happens in adolescent friendly club is that the ANM, who's posted at the SEP center, meets the peer educators in her area. about say 8 to 10 peer educators meet her every week to let her know what sessions they have taken place and if they have any issues which they need her support on. This is more of a hand-holding exercise by the ANM. But if I look at the health education department, I would love to say that you all know about the WIFS program, the deworming you just told me, the sanitary napkin, wonderful thing is happening. So if peer educator can also happen in schools, it will be another step for you. And of course, you all know about the screening of school-going children for the 4Ds, Rashtriya Bal Swasthya कार्यक्रम, which also I'm looking after. And we know about, say, 11,614 mobile health teams are there across India. And last year, say 2019-20, about 15 crore children were screened in schools and Anganwadis. So about 7.5 crores or 8 crores in school and the remainder in Anganwadis. So if we strengthen this program with the help of school education, that whenever mobile health team comes for screening, the teachers are well coordinated with the team so that any child who already has a health problem can be referred to a proper institution. If he or she needs any investigation, that information can be shared with the mobile health team so that time is not wasted, that the team looks at the child and then refers. If the teachers can support, like I don't know if Puducherry is doing, there was a scheme initially in which the teachers were screening children for vision weakness on their own. I think it was under SSA or something, the teachers are screening. So if this happens, so teachers can have a list of say 20 children or 40 children and give it to the mobile health team and say, okay, these are the 20 children whose vision looks weak. So mobile health team can then support their testing with the optometrist and then even provide glasses. All that fund is also a part of the mobile health team. So good coordination between the mobile health team and the schools will really go a long way in improving the health outcomes of the school going children. So now all this we had, right? So now we looked at why do we need a separate school health and wellness ambassador initiative. I talked about Rashtriya Bal Swasthya. Yes, that is an annual checkup of school going children. WIFS is already there. National Deworming Day is already taking place. And immunization, in schools it is TD, tetanus, diphtheria, TD vaccine for ages 10 years and 16 years. So this is already in place, right? So now we said, but this is all curative and giving things, it's like, it's more of treatment based. You diagnose and you treat. WIFS is the only program which says about prevention of anemia. So, but there was no talk about promotion of health and I talk about other prevention aspects. So what we thought is that once there is no prevention promotion aspect, we need to look at some kind of an age appropriate learning in schools which will promote healthy behavior. So there will be, once healthy behavior is in place, then we can prevent the non-communicable illnesses or unreasonable behaviors or mental health issues or irrelevant actions on behalf of the adolescents. Okay, now if you come back to the India level data, we know that we have about 26 crore children who are in the schools in government and government aided schools. We have about 247 lakh who go to senior secondary schools, 391 lakh who go to secondary schools, 675 lakh who go to upper primary, and 1291 lakh who go to primary. So we have a huge chunk which goes to primary, which is 12.9 crore, and the remainder about 13 crores go to senior secondary and upper primary schools. I don't know what the data is for Puducherry. I'm sorry, I didn't have. I have the all India data, but this is a huge captive audience. We've got these children who are going to government schools, so who may be the focus of all our health prevention interventions. So this came to us that these 26 crores are a big opportunity for us to look under the Ayushman Bharat. Ayushman Bharat is health and wellness. So which we are aiming for 2022, that there is health and wellness across India in various spheres, whether it is in the health and wellness centers, the sub-center PSC, or within the schools. And we also know that India is committed to the sustainable development goals, which include good health and well-being of the population. The national health policy also gives special importance to the health challenges, and MHRD's commitment also is to universalize life skill education. The education policy, which was released this year also gives a lot of stress. I think you all, I should not be telling you about education policy, but we just discussed is that the NCRT was discussing with us about the importance of the education policy. And this education policy, which was released this year only, goes on to say that it is so important to give the adolescents, the school-going children, the right life skill to deal with issues which come up in life. So if we keep training them regularly as a kind of a regular capsule to be given to children in schools, we will look at a much better behavior for these children in schools and after they leave school also. This I just mentioned initially that, of course, the program was launched by Honorable Prime Minister in Chhattisgarh on 14th April 2018. So then once this was launched, Ayushman Bharat, the option of school health and wellness ambassador was brought on, like I was mentioned about teachers. So what does this school health and wellness ambassador initiative talk about? It says that there should be age appropriate, skill oriented, theme based, graded curriculum for teachers, which they can implement the activities at the school level, whether it is primary, middle, high, or senior secondary schools. So this has to be age appropriate. That is why the curriculum which we have created is age appropriate. As of now, what we are planning to, for which the training has already started, is to start in the upper primary and secondary schools. And once that is fully on board, then we go into primary schools. So it has to be age appropriate. Then 2 teachers in every school will be designated as health and wellness ambassadors, and they will be trained to transact the health promotion and disease prevention information as interesting activities. It's not going to be like the teacher stands and starts teaching. I mean, I'm sorry to say, you have so many teachers listening to me, but we all know that children get more excited if there is a lot of interaction, if there is no exam which covers it, if there are quizzes, if there are case studies. I mean, different things for them to take home the information. It doesn't have to be something which is rota, which is question and answer. That I think children have enough in their lives. So we have tried to make these activities very interactive, and all this curriculum was developed with help of NCRT as well as MHRD. So it's not as if health has sat and made the curriculum. It was all the close coordination of NCRT. In fact, we were supporting them. They were heading the whole curriculum setting and designing. And we are hoping that about 6 months 6 months of classes actually takes place if we take away the vacations, the census, the election time, the holidays, everything. So approximately regular classes take place about 6 months. I don't know if you agree with me. We have a lot of principals and teachers listening to me, but this is what the feedback we got from NCRT was about 24 weeks of proper classes takes place. Hence we propose for 24-hour sessions, so that once every week of regular classes, these sessions take place. These are classroom based sessions. So this day one every week can be a Tuesday, can be a Wednesday, whatever you want. We suggested Tuesday to the states, or whichever day the state wants to declare as the health and wellness day is up to them. So that day can be decided, and that day 1 hour session on, as I mentioned above, age appropriate, theme based one activity should take place. And these activities, these messages will, it's very critical to do it in school, because once you influence the school children, these school children end up influencing what happens at home, in the community. So they will end up acting as health and wellness messengers within the society. So by actually training just children of the school, you will end up influencing the society behavior. That is such a beautiful concept, that just by training a child in school, training 30 children in your class, you're looking at influencing 30 families. And by influencing 30 families, you're influencing the community around the 30 families. So that is very important. And even besides these weekly sessions, we are looking for very important small IC activities which will take place in schools concurrently, or they will be shared. There will be posters given to school for display. There will be assembly discussions. So as this program grows, so these are all suggestions for the state and UTs to implement. As the program grows, we will keep providing these things to state. We have developed a lot of IC material which can be displayed in schools, can be discussed in school. Maybe a poster can be a topic of assembly discussion. Maybe a poster can be a discussion in class, whether it is to do with early marriage, teenage pregnancy, substance abuse, mental health. So a lot of options are going to be given to the schools to implement this in their own level. So broadly speaking, if you divide whatever I've just said into 4 main things, what are the weekly activities? We have the weekly transaction, as I mentioned, with the health and wellness ambassador, the 2 teachers. They will talk about the classroom interaction, which are the main themes which we'll discuss. And of course, weekly iron folic supplementation will continue as it is happening. Fortnightly, we are looking at thematic school assemblies. Maybe the topic or the theme for that school assembly can be one of the topics which are shared already. An assembly can revolve around that topic. The principal, the head teacher can talk about those topics within the assembly. So it's like, as you all know, I think you're experts in education. I'm the wrong person to tell you. But the more you reinforce, because children do need reinforcement again and again of the same topic, whether it is nutrition, whether it is sexual reproductive health, menstrual hygiene. So if the head teachers also take it into the heads that they will talk about certain health issue every alternate week, every alternate fortnight, so that will reinforce whatever information the teachers are giving the children in class. And then we have noticed also that this question box response, this is very interesting, is that all the schools we are hoping will install a question box, which I think a lot of schools are already doing, what we were told. is that these question box may be just anonymous questions which the students can put into the question box and which can be answered fortnightly. So what we have suggested is that these questions in the box can be placed, and then every fortnight the teacher in charge, the head teacher or the health and wellness ambassador can take them out and give the answers without, because it will be anonymous, so there will be no names called. So they can answer that, and in case they're not able to answer, so they have no option what replies to go. So then they can call the local counselor who's next to them, the medical officer who's posted in the PSC close by. So he or she can then answer those questions, because I think you all, like you and I, all of us know that we have gone through adolescence, and it's such a time of curiosity. You want to keep asking questions. There's so many things you don't know, and you want to find out. And so many times you end up asking your friends or reading it here and there. So it will be good if those questions are popped into the question box, and then somebody responsible, somebody trained can come back and talk about those questions in the assembly. Third, year, as I had mentioned, is the quarterly health day, is the quarterly adolescent health day within the community or the school, and of course, parent teacher meeting. I would request that once you have your parent teacher meeting, talk about one health issue, because parents so many times are totally lost. They don't know how to talk to their children, they don't know how to solve problems. Many times the children turn to their peers, turn to wrong people for advice. So if the parents know, okay, say these are the 10 warning signs the parents should look for, that warning signs, you would have to decide as a head teacher or as a teacher, what are the 10 warning signs the parents should look out for. You will say maybe sudden loss in academic, or child has changed the routine of sleeping, or child is hiding something at home, or child is going out and not telling you where he or she is going, or some change in behavior which they are noticing. So at least they'll be able to say, okay, there's something wrong, and then they may sit and talk to the child or refer the child to the counselor. So that awareness has to be there in the families to support the adolescent. Finally, is the biannual one, which is of course albendazole. All of you are very well aware. So we are looking at all these activities happening along with the health and wellness ambassador, the two trained teachers who will be in school to kind of solve other broad issues, and will actually be able to refer the children in need to the local adolescent friendly health clinic, which is AFHC, and of course counselors as and when need to be. I hope you all are understanding what I'm saying. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay,
Yes, yes.
okay. I'm. It's fine. Sometimes these webinars are very bad because I really can't look
Yes,
into
yeah,
people's
yeah.
eye and see the response. Okay, okay. So next, I mean, just to let you know a bit, I will not say history, but how we got down to develop all this is that if you see this training material took us 3 years, I think more than 2 years to develop. There was commitment from both the ministries. Ministry of Education sat down and said, okay, we will develop. We made expert group about 94 people who gave inputs for this training material, and whatever curriculum was already there. We had the AEP module, you all know, adolescent education program under NAPO was already there. Then we had life skill education already happening. So all those inputs were taken and collated, and hence we worked together to do this. So we know now is that the national resource group has already been made, and so MHRD now is planning to fund the state resource group trainings. So they will fund through the SCRTs, and once the state resource group is trained, then the health and family welfare is going to train the state people, the teachers and the principals provide the IC material, the kit for the teachers training. So this is a wonderful example of coordination between two ministries. Everybody, the health is working as much as the MHRD is working. So this kind of partnership should also take place at the state level. Just to let you know, the state UT also, that we have to have one coordination committee, state level coordination committee, which is co-headed. We should have co-chaired by the Secretary Education and Secretary of Health, so that any orders which are issued by this committee apply to both education and health equally. So once this committee, this instruction has already been given to your adolescent health program officer, that you have to create this committee, and then follow instructions from this committee to set up your resource groups. But I think Puducherry this year hasn't taken funds from health, so they will use the education funds. I don't know how they'll train. Yeah,
Madam,
that will be good.
1 minute.
Yeah.
Actually, we have communicated all the officials to Saroj Yadav, madam, actually.
Okay.
But
Oh.
since we are not in the list of aspirational district, so we
Yeah.
are not included in the first phase of training and other things. And we are ready. We are eagerly waiting for the population education people to take up the
Uh,
duty of Puducherry, because madam said that it
yeah.
comes in the second phase. Okay, then we are ready with all the details, and we have formed the steering committee, and details are shared to Saroj Yadav.
Okay, that's wonderful. So what I can only suggest is that since you all are keen yourself, so when we are training, say when we're looking to train the maybe the west zone or the east zone, how we're going to look at these training zone wise or state wise, then we can. How many people have you given? What list have you given to Dr. Saroj Yadav?
I think a state resource group, madam. I think
Okay,
we
wonderful.
have formed a state level steering
Yeah, yeah,
committee
yeah. Huh? So
consist
what
of
you
Secretary Education and Secretary Health, and
good?
along with all the RSSK doctors, along with the coordination committee from Education Department, ma'am.
Are
And
wonderful, wonderful.
yeah, we have formed a state resource group consist of 10 members, and one
Okay,
among them was the doctor, and another one is a counselor. I think Shamim
okay.
madam will be leading us as a
Acha Shamim.
coordinator because
Yeah, yeah,
yes, yes, yes.
yeah. I know Dr.
And
Shamim.
I
Okay,
think one of the counselor will be from our Aurobindo Society, ma'am. And we are taking the help of NGOs like Aurobindo Society. I think Dr.
yeah.
Raghunath is present in this meeting, and sir is listening to us also. He is also involved in this.
Oh,
And we
okay.
are taking the help. Yeah, we are taking the help of our physical education teachers. I think they are very well trained, and I think we have formed a state resource group consist of 4 teachers, ma'am. 2
Okay,
women PETs and 2 male teachers, and
okay.
they are of the cadre of lecturer in diet as well as in the junior colleges, and they will be leading us in training of teachers and other aspects.
Oh, that's wonderful. So what we can do, since you're already so ready, we can try and put you in the first round only, right? Because if there's so much of enthusiasm coming from the UT, is that you already have your own people ready. So I'll talk to Dr. Saroj Yadav, and then we'll try and put you in the first round only.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, we
Hello.
are ready for that.
Yes, good. I'm also very excited. That's nice. Okay. So this done is like, okay, these are the 11 themes which you may have heard of. Okay, I'll just repeat. There's growing up healthy, emotional well-being and mental health, interpersonal relationships, values and citizenship, gender equality, nutrition, health and sanitation, prevention and management of substance abuse, promotion of a healthy lifestyle, reproductive health and HIV prevention, safety and security against violence and injuries, and promotion of safe use of internet, gadgets, and media. So these were the 11 things which we sat, and I think we spent at least a couple of months to see that we are not missing anything. So we have tried to take in all the aspects of growing up aspects of adolescent, whether it is regarding health and hygiene, whether it is on reproductive health, lifestyle, injuries, violence, and of course the safe use of media, which is very critical now with the media being flushed with all kinds of information there. So hopefully we have made a whole cohesive and comprehensive curriculum. These are the resource material which were prepared and released on the in February by the ministers. Oh, this is just a photograph of the launch on 12th and 13th of this month of February. It was launched, and we are very lucky that we launched it well in time, because after that, all this lockdown started. So this happened, and I think in this you see there's equal participation of your health, your ministers there, health minister as well as ours, and even the officials. Yes, both of them are there. So this is the institutional mechanism which we thought of setting up, is that at the national level, we will have both the secretaries, whether it is Secretary of Health and Secretary of School Education Literacy. At the state level, like you all know, it is the MD NHM, the State Nodal Officer for Adolescent Health, the Directors of Education and the SCRT. At the district, again, you have the District Adolescent Health Officer, the District Education Officer. At the block level, you have the counselors or the block coordinators and the block education officers. And schools, of course, you have the principal, the teachers, and the students, or who end up being peer educators for the society. So this is the kind of training cascade which we thought of, is that national level master trainers have already been created on 12th and 13th of February. We did the training, but we will again do a refresher once we start, because due to lockdown, there has been a lot of confusion. So I think we'll do another refresher here in the ministry. And once this is already done, we will try, like you mentioned, how many SRG group people you have, people from the SCRT, from the SHFW, the Department of Health, Department of Education, the district trainers, whichever district is implementing. State resource group is there. Then the state resource group is in charge of training the health and wellness ambassadors in school, as well as the sensitization of the principals from the school. So there'll be a 2-day sensitization of principals and 5-day training of the health and wellness ambassadors. And beautifully Puducherry has done is to take the physical education teachers, which is very nice. I mean, we suggested that, but a lot of schools are not on board, but it's good to see that you all already understand the importance. And eventually what we're looking at in the long run, that these health and wellness ambassadors will end up creating health and wellness messengers in school also. So as the program progresses, we'll have two health monitors, whatever you want to call them in class. So 2 children per class may also be treated as health and wellness messengers and trained to take session, to know when to refer. So it will be a very long going process and a program which will eventually look at behavior change. I think this you just mentioned also, SRG is going to be there. We have the state resource group, and of course the teacher mechanism, the diet and all are going to be used for training. What I would just like to stress at this point is with the COVID lockdown, all our training planning is being redone. I mean, you all must be aware that we had already scheduled training of the state resource group in March, way in March. But with the lockdown, everything has to be changed. Now, so we are looking at even creating the curriculum which we had created for training will be now changed into e-modules, and we're looking at maybe creating short videos so that the whole concept of role play which we have made mandate as transaction, so those role plays, those activities, how do we portray it in a webinar? How do we tell our teachers, your principals, how do we tell them what are the activities? So we are trying to put those group activities, those quizzes and all as small videos, so that without talking too much, the person who's being trained realizes what the theme is all about. So it is making us also think a lot how to carry out training at a distance, from a distance, how to do this tele training thing. So and we are, I think, almost at the final stages. We have had so many meetings with NCRT. So hopefully by June we will start this state resource group training, because things are now falling into slot and we've got a lot of things already prepared now. Okay, this is just
Actually, yes, ma'am. I think thank you so much. I think we are very lucky to have the institutions like Aurobindo Society. I think we are already doing programs like Our Children, Our Responsibility. They are doing wonderfully for the schools of UT of Puducherry, ma'am. I think, as our director sir said, I think as per the girls' hygiene condition, health is considered. Gramalaya is collaborated with us, and they are doing wonderfully well with the cotton napkins, and they are doing extensively with the help of Bank of America, the CSR initiative from Bank of America. We are very much thankful to them, and we will be submitting a report on their services and their works in UT of Puducherry, ma'am. I think we have Dr. Raghunath here from Aurobindo Society. I think he is one of the key initiative person from Aurobindo Society, who is taking up a lot of programs in UT of Puducherry, ma'am. And I would like to request her to speak for a few minutes, if you permit.
Can I just finish the presentation? It's just ending, and then we can hear him. Yes. Okay. This is just to let you know this timeline which we had. The NRG is already created. Now we're looking at SRG, State Resource Group Training, which of course will be in June to August. And then once these SRG is created, they will train the school teachers and the principals in the next 3-4 months. And then hopefully once the training starts, parallel sessions will start in school in sessions, which we say, of course, September onward, the sessions should start. As of now, we are funding about 191 districts only in the first phase, and if this goes out the next year, of course, it will start doubling, and then that will how the whole country will be covered. So, okay, this I think I will not tell you all. There's nothing. This is. Do I talk about the curriculum? Do you want to know what is the curriculum? What are the headings, or is it fine?
No, actually, we have shared the soft copies to all the children, ma'am. All the teachers and this thing. I think whatever the material that you have shared to us when we have visited Delhi. I think regarding the framework and regarding the guidelines, how to carry out in the schools, and regarding the NCRT publication of that, and we have shared that all the copies to the schools, and we have copies from NCRT. So and I think in the due course of time, we will be conducting few more training programs so that they will be enlightened to know.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So I think this already, since the material is with you, now we can hear the Aurobindo Society person can talk, and then we can go for discussion.
I request Mr. Raghunath to say a few words about Aurobindo Society, who has taken initiative on school health wellness. Mr. Raghunath, you can come in. Okay, I think he doesn't have the mic.
No. So, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So, since your Aurobindo Society has been implementing this life skill education program, which is also a positive mental health program. So, I think many of the components which Madam has presented is already covered in this program, and we can expand it also. So, there is this flex, because since we are working very close with the education department, we are quite open to the thing. So, we will study the entire modules which you have, I think, mentioned.
Yeah.
And we will
Okay.
modify this program and we can immediately take it. So there is no, we are quite positive, we are quite open to this idea.
Oh, that is so nice. So lucky for us, huh? So you can just maybe expand and use the themes which are left so that it becomes very comprehensive.
Exactly. Yeah, that can be done. Right.
Ma'am, you have asked one more question during the presentation regarding the assessment of vision children.
Yeah.
We have done assessment camp to all the children in the government and as well as government aided schools with the help of Aravind Eye Hospital. We have Aravind Eye Hospital. We have done and we have mapped and we have given spectacles, 456 spectacles for all the visually impaired children. And we have done corrective surgery also, 18 corrective surgery done with the help of assessment camp.
So this Aravind Eye Hospital, is it a kind of MOU with the state or do they do it free of cost?
I will get it clarified with my inclusive education coordinator, ma'am.
Okay.
I will get it clarified.
Yeah.
And ma'am, I think we have some questions to you. I think, can we go ahead, ma'am?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Ma'am, now Saravanan coordinator has come. He will brief you about that assessment camp.
Okay.
Good morning, madam. MHRD provided 1.5 lakhs for assessment camp, madam. So we are under Samagra Shiksha scheme.
Okay.
So we are conducting assessment camp with the help of Aravind Eye Hospital, NIPMED, and also with the help of Alimco. So these three organizations, we are with the help of them, we are conducting assessment camp, madam.
What is the third organization? Sorry, I didn't hear.
Alimco.
Okay.
And also from our health department, madam. Health department also conducting that assessment camp, madam.
Who's bearing the cost of the glasses? Is it SSA or
SSA bearing the cost of the spectacles, madam. And the Aurobindo Eye Hospital providing in subsidy rate, madam. The actual cost of the spectacle is around 1,200 rupees. They are providing us for 400 rupees, madam.
So this 400 SSA is paying?
Yes, SSA, Samagra Shiksha is paying, madam.
Yeah, okay. So what happens is when the vision is checked in schools, so how do the glasses go to the beneficiary? Do they have to go and collect or the teacher gets
no. From Aurobindo Hospital, directly they would go to the schools. They will check the vision and they are providing spectacles, madam.
Oh, okay. That's nice. So I'm so sorry. Can you also give me maybe one pager on how Aravind is supporting, like how many classes given?
Yes, madam. Sure.
So it's good for us to, know and then give it to the other states.
Sure, madam. We'll provide that.
Wonderful. Good.
Thanks, madam.
Yeah, thanks. Now, any other questions?
Madam, Malaya, I will share the presentation, ma'am. That what you have asked, I will share that napkin pads.
Yes. Okay. Good.
Yes, I will share it.
So that is nice. Okay.
Just know where you got.
Madam?
Yeah.
Madam, this is Sendil.
One second, Sendil, 1 second. I will show that, then you can start. Give me some more. Yes, this is a napkin pad, ma'am, which Gramalia has provided at free of cost. This is a napkin pad. You can see the benefits of using reusable cloth pads. It has been given to all the children in our government schools. Girls children starting from class 6 to 12, provided at free of cost.
Okay, this is nice. But the only thing the girl will need to have is access to water and soap, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, exactly.
Okay. Because what happens is a lot of states always tell us that even if we give them free napkins, cloth napkins, the girl doesn't have access to separate washing area, Puducherry that way I think is lucky. You have good infrastructures, but a lot of other states who are poorly performing don't have access to separate bathrooms and the girls don't have access to water. So they end up wanting napkins which they can use and throw away because they don't have access to running water or safe places to wash. So that is just for your information.
Okay, ma'am. Now I request Sendil to take up few questions, ma'am.
Yeah.
We'll have an
Okay.
interactive session.
Okay.
We'll be taking up. Sendil, you can take up.
Good morning, madam. I think you might be knowing that
Yeah.
there was a parallel training which was conducted by the MHRD a few months back called NISHTA.
Nishtha.
Yeah.
That is Nishtha training.
Yes.
Yeah. I know that.
We had a module called health and well-being. So our teachers
Yeah,
in the school are well informed about these life skills and core skills that has to be developed among students.
Yeah.
Most of the teachers know they feel that the information shared in that module could be better executed with the habit formation. How to transact those things to the students. It could be nice to illustrate on this issue. How to transact with the students,
Yes.
make it as a habit formation.
Yeah, so that is what I think we have tried in the school health curriculum, is that those, whatever we're talking about, whatever activities are going to be shown, whether it is an interactive, whether it's a quiz, whether it is a case study. So we are trying to make them into short videos so that the trainer doesn't have to explain everything. So that the short video is there, and then the trainees, the principals or teachers can then can give feedback or understanding from the video, so that and as I think as teachers and as principals, you all know that what one reads you remember, but what one you see and then you discuss, that you'll remember all your life. So that kind of that kind of training quality we are looking at. So it is taking a bit of time because we don't want the quality to suffer because of this web-based training. So yes, I mean, how to implement, how to transact activity will be something which will be a very critical part of this training. I agree with that.
Ma'am, I can add a few points, ma'am. Whether we can have a blended mode of training with hands-on as well as online, it may be effective, which I am thinking.
I really cannot comment on hands-on because as of now, none of our training is hands-on. All our, I think, every meeting which I'm having, every discussion in the ministry is all web-based. So we are not really promoting this hands-on as of now. If it happens, wonderful, because that already has been created earlier on, that hands-on training, one-to-one training, discussion and group activities. But as of now, all our emphasis is on creation of long distance training module. I'm sorry, hands-on is, as of now, it's not been really stressed on, but it is there. So in case we turn to hands-on training, we can always go back to what the initial training material was.
No, ma'am, I'm saying about the blended training module now after this COVID lockdown. Not,
Yeah, of course.
after this COVID
Yes,
lockdown,
yes.
go for a blended training. Yes.
Yes, of course. If that happens, then also it's good, because then we will be, I think, specialized in training online as well as offline. So it will be, yes, I agree with that. Blended training always is much better and far more interesting. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Sendil, you can take.
Yes, ma'am. There is a question which has come now.
Yeah.
As teachers, we often find it difficult to make our students assertive, saying no to things bad for them. How
Yeah.
to make the students to say no to things which they already know it's wrong? Because this peer pressure sometimes leads them to, as you well put in that presentation, there are many gateway drugs which once they get in, they are very hard to get back. So how to make the students very assertive?
Yeah.
What are the things that you can provide
I
to the
think,
teachers?
see, there is no one correct way of saying, of dealing with peer pressure, right? Some of them do what various options which we discussed with the adolescent is that some of them say, if I say no the first time and I continue saying no, then the person on the other side, my friend or the other peers, understand that he or she will not change, right? But some of them get very aggressive. If you say no, they say, oh, what a useless friend you are, you can't even do this with us, blah blah, all those kind of pressure is there. So the second option which we discuss is that you maybe just laugh it off. Okay, no, I don't do it, it's fine, you do it. But because I think all of us realize that peers play an important role, and no boy or girl wants to lose their friends. So to save their friends, to feel that you're belonging in a group, you end up compromising what you think is right or wrong. But the decision has to be finally the child's, the boy or girl's. Is that when you say no, you have to stick to it, and then there have to be clear boundaries within friendships. Okay, I'm your friend, but I will help you out in whatever you need, but we will not, if there's something which I don't believe in, I will not do. So if a friendship is based only on the person agreeing whatever the peers say, then it's not really friendship, it's a selfish relationship. So true friendship comes when both the people involved, or maybe four people involved, know the boundaries of each other, respect the boundaries, and then the friendship goes ahead. So I agree, it is very difficult to say no, but that's a thing which you have to grow and keep stressing again and again. And that's a quality which one of the modules which you say, whether it is sexual reproductive health, substance abuse, injuries and violence, all of these issues have how to say no. So that is one of the activities in all these modules. So I think once you start training, you will learn the activities and it will be easy for you to transact and discuss with children, because so many times the children will give you ideas themselves, because they are the ones who are being bullied, or they are the ones who are being pressurized. So a lot of them, like you just mentioned, we had this group discussion, I think about 3-4 days back, about peer pressure only. And the boy told us, he's saying, whenever my friends used to say, come, let's have beer, and then, we go for a fag or smoke, whatever you call it. And I used to just laugh it off, I said, no, yeah, tum karo, you do it. I'm sitting here, I'm enjoying my Coke, I'm fine with that. Yeah, when they go out for smoking, you don't just act very aggressive. Oh, I don't smoke. You just walk with them, don't smoke, but let them not feel that you're looking down upon them, that you're condescending. So that equality of behavior has to be there, and then you grow into it. And he said, it took me about 5-6 months to have a relationship with my friends and saying, okay, I'm a friend, but I will not do what you want, because I'm my own person. I will choose what I want to do. So that kind of maturity comes only with age and with repeated assertions that, okay, this is what I want to do and this is what I don't want to do. But yes, it takes time. I agree, it's difficult.
uh, we have a very peculiar thing in Pondicherry. When we compare the suicide rates, national
Yeah.
average, Pondicherry, we have 4 times of that of the national average. So
Oh,
what happens is that suicide has become a normal in some rural areas, especially at the coastal region, as said by our SPD sir. So it has become a normal day of event for the children who comes to school. His father commits suicide, and he gets to know that it's a normal event. How to sensitize the students that self-awareness and uh, have bring him back from the depression that one might have dreams related to this.
I would say that you need to have a very robust telephone helpline that has shown great wonders in a lot of states, because this helpline many times what it does is that, see, when the person is trying to commit suicide, or is contemplating committing suicide, he is very desperate. We are not criminalizing suicides, but the person is really depressed and he can't think of a way out. So if there is a helpline, which, because and or hopelessness is not very long. It may stay for half an hour, 1 hour, and if he or she succeeds, then fine, they commit suicide. So this is the window on which the person should know that he or she can talk to somebody. And the person who's talking on the other end, the counselor who's there, the supporter who's there, should only have to listen and talk and not be judgmental, and not say, okay, what you're thinking is absolutely wrong, and it's fine to be depressed and this is wrong what you're doing. It's more as empathy, as listening, because listening is a great art. And what these counselors, the mental health counselors, are trained is to listen and to provide small input, so that the person on the other end of the telephone can just keep talking. And many times just talking, listening, and giving small answers is a way of just biding over that hopelessness time. Then that's why this criticality of helpline, that is really very critical. And secondly, I would say that this whole concept of what you're mentioning is that the father commits suicide. This whole concept of men bearing everything should be broken. Men cannot bear everything. It's not that if you're feeling very sad, man will not talk about it. The woman can talk, but the man cannot. It shouldn't work. Everybody, when you're depressed, you should be able to talk, you should be able to cry. The men should cry, the women should cry, and anybody. And the minute you're able to talk about whatever's going through, whether it is a financial loss, or a loss in the family, or loss of job, loss of something else, some loved one. So if you talk about it, no, then it really helps. Because if you keep everything bottled inside, thinking, okay, I'm a man, I cannot talk about sadness. Why not? All of us are humans. Everybody should be allowed to talk. So this importance, I think communication is the key. If you're able to talk, say to your wife, to your husband, to your child, to your father, to a friend, anybody. So if that is there, the communication, if they say, okay, if you're hopeless or helpless, if you think there's no way out, say call a number, put a helpline number, so that if anybody is feeling helpless or hopeless in life, there's nothing to do in life, I want to die, and if he sees a number and he just calls it up, and the person on the other side is sitting there to just talk to him, that goes a really, really long way. However, on the flip side, I'm saying if the person is actually clinically depressed, because I think you all may be aware there's something which is depressive episodes and one thing which is clinical depression. So if a person has clinical depression, then of course he needs to put on antidepressants. And as you all may be aware that once a person is put on antidepressant, the effect takes about 3 weeks to come, 2 to 3 weeks to have any effect. So initial 2-3 weeks are always dicey. The person will not start feeling normal. So depression as depressive episodes, that okay, something tragic happened and you want to kill yourself. And second, as a clinical depression, both have to be dealt slightly in a different way. But that means your mental health interventions have to really strengthen. And helpline is a very critical, crucial thing to be put in place.
Yes, ma'am. A trained graduate teacher, Mr. Muruganandam from PS Palayam, has asked a question.
Okay.
School reopening is a big threat and fear in this COVID-19 pandemic situation. What precautionary measures and health advice do you suggest to run the schools smoothly?
Okay, the 2-3 options which we are looking at is, if the government decides to reopen the schools, one, you have to look at physical distancing. What WHO has promoted is 1 meter distancing. So children should be placed at 1 meters first. Second is that respiratory hygiene, that when they're coughing and sneezing, they put their head into the elbow and do, so that it doesn't go out. This and the coughing, sneezing, whatever. Third is to wear a mask, so that if a child or a teacher is infected themselves, because majority of infections are asymptomatic, we all know. So if the person is infected, at least they don't transmit the infection. So it's more of a prevention for others, that I am wearing a mask today is so that the people around me in my office don't get infected in case I'm infected. I don't know. So respiratory hygiene and mask wearing is for protection of self as well as the others. And fourth, of course, frequent hand washing. That when the child sits on the table, he or she cleans his table, and whatever interaction in class is there, you should avoid close physical contact, and then of course availability of free flowing water and soap, so that the child is able to wash his or her hands ample number of times in a day. That is basic. However, this decision has to be taken at the official level, whether the schools are going to reopen, not reopen, how the placement of class is going to be there, what kind of periods you're going to have, what is the length of time the children will stay in schools, and everything else has to be managed. And when the child goes back to school, he or she should always take a bath, so that whatever exposure they had in school, all that thing is washed and put away, and the child is safe and clean at home.
Mr. Sindhi, we can take them.
Yes, ma'am. Students in their adolescence experience change in their physical appearance. Development of secondary sex hormones are not same for everyone. It is reflected among students with lack of confidence. How to address this emotional distress? It happens in schools wherein which
Yeah, I agree with what you say, is that everybody's pace of change, everybody's pace of growth, physical, sexual growth, mental growth is varied. Some girls will start growing at 11 years, some girls start growing at 14, 15. Same for boys. Some boys, don't gain height until they're 16, 17, and some of their co-brothers, some of their friends will start when they're 13. So there's always a range. So again, I go back to the material which we have created for school health. It's an activity. They all are case studies in which they're comparing 2 boys and 2 girls, or it's a parent talking to a child and then talking about the relative growth, difference in growth, and how each one is normal within self, and also mentioning the fact that, okay, if say by 16 years the girl hasn't had periods, or say by 18 years the height hasn't increased, then you need to get investigated. So what are the warning signs, and when do you refer a boy or a girl for medical investigation is also mentioned. So it's like all these themes all have interactive activities and case studies, so that once you put in case studies and interaction, the boy and girl or the teacher and principal will sit and think, okay, this is something which I know of or I've heard of. So it's a good experiential learning. That's what it's called, that you look at case studies, you discuss case studies, and then you put it as a new experience which you learn, so that whatever advice you give to your students, to your friends is the right one. And I would say there's nothing like a right pace of growth. Is always relative, and everybody has a different pace of growth, and that again is dealt in the school health and wellness curriculum.
Ma'am, internet addiction among students are most common. Internet addiction among students are most common, which hinders their educational output. How to bring about change and de-addict the students and make connection with the reality. And another question pertaining to the same, most students are addicted to social media also, which in turns makes them stressed because they
Yes.
keep on comparing with their peers, the number of likes that they are getting in the Facebook, and it affects their mental balance also. How to overcome this?
Oh, that is really a difficult thing, and that is what our 11th theme deals on. It's a safe use of internet and media, in which our case studies are actually based on the fact that what is a real media, as in REAL, real, and what is the real media. Real is what you see in the photographic reel on the social media. So what that discussion is there in that module only is that what you see on the social media is really not true what is happening, because people put in the best. If you're having a great time, you put the best of your photographs, you put in the airbrush photograph, something which is nice, which is not really true. So for a child to be able to differentiate as to what is real and what is made up is one of the case studies which we have discussed in that. And second is the addiction as to when to control and when to stop using internet and mobile phones or laptops is also one of the activities which is again discussed, that is how to create a timeline. You have to make your own calendar and then create a timeline as to when you're doing what. So I'm just saying the common questions which you're talking to me are already dealt in these curriculum. So if the state can share that curriculum and the activities with you, it will really be an eye opener, because I'm seeing the questions which we have answered in those modules are already being raised by Puducherry. So I think going through these curriculum will be I think a great learning experience for all of you. And when you go back to your classes, to your schools, it will help you interact with the boys and girls, so that you don't end up being judgmental, you don't end up being condescending, you have that empathy, you understand, so that the boy or girl can come to you and talk about the problems he or she is facing, whether at home, with friends, with girlfriend, boyfriend, with father, with mother, with grandparents. So that kind of rapport has to be built up by you as teachers and head teachers with the children. And that, I think, will happen gradually as you deal more and more with the children. And I think first I would say that you go through the curriculum which we have shared with the states. It's really eye opening, and all these topics which you are asking me are already dealt there already.
Ma'am, a lecturer, Mr. Bulagunathan, has asked one question. Madam, I am to request to introduce a new portal or YouTube to teach wellness curriculum through instructional videos, selected readings, and weekly quiz.
I would say the instructing through YouTube is a two-edged sword. You just don't know when the child will stop listening to your instruction and go and start watching something else. It's difficult. The temptation is right there. Why will a boy or girl sit and listen to something which is instructional and doing good and, maintaining some order, something? He'd rather go and watch some music or some other movie. So, and what is happening now is, with this COVID lockdown, we are kind of stuck in using web-based trainings and web-based activities. However, the best is always face-to-face, because when you look into the eyes of the boy or girl you're talking to, the teachers you're talking to, it makes a lot of difference. And then putting it on YouTube will, in fact, increase the number of hours a boy or girl will spend on YouTube. There are a lot of good things on YouTube. I'm not saying there are wonderful instructional videos, but then for a child to be able to filter, okay, fine, you are logged into this account, you're watching this, you can't do anything else. That is difficult for them to control. Okay, I will just watch, say, half an hour of this instruction, then I'll switch it off. It doesn't work like that. He may watch half an hour of your instruction, but end up watching 1 hour movie after that, or 1 hour some fight scene, or some violence scene, or some gender-based violence. So, and whatever the boy or girl watches on this YouTube, on the screen, has a huge impact on his or her development. So I would say that YouTube, if it is half an hour, I wish it is stuck to half an hour, but it is very difficult to actually control.
Mr. Sendil, you can take up the last question, I think.
Yeah.
You can take up the last question.
Yes. Ma'am, the gender-based violence in school are in rise, especially in high and higher secondary school, which destroys the learning atmosphere. What are the ways one can overcome and sensitize the students? And bullying is a very big issue in schools nowadays. And the reason behind it is always gender violence, gender-based violence. And how to
there is no one how, because gender, as you all know, is something which is a social construct. There's a boy, there's a girl, there's a transgender, right? and they should be equally comfortable being what they are, whether they want to be a boy or a girl or a transgender. That freedom should be there with a boy or girl to express themselves, right? First thing. Second thing is that we should stop blaming the girl for the gender-based violence, because ultimately it says, oh, she was wearing that, she was speaking like that, she was dressed like that, she was acting like that, hence she got it, So that blaming of girl has to stop, and we have to start talking to boys. I mean, our interventions for gender-based violence have to start with boys as to how to respect girls, how to respect no. If the girl is saying no, it means no. It doesn't mean like a Hindi movie that she's saying no, but actually she means yes. It's never like that in real life, right? So talking to boys. Second, talking to parents. The parents have to be told that the boys cannot get away by doing what they're doing. Just because they're boys, that excuse is not going to be held accountable any longer. So parents should know that the boys are responsible for what they do, and they will be punished or whatever action taken against them. And the girls have to be told to behave responsibly. And responsibility doesn't mean that they start changing what they are, but they have to be assertive. If they are not interested in any relationship, if they don't want the boy to go ahead, they have to be strong and say no. And in case the boy doesn't listen, or the partner, whoever doesn't listen, he or she, that girl should go and talk to the teacher or to her parent or to some elder. She should not feel I said no, so the boy will understand. Many times it doesn't really happen, and it ends up being gender-based violence, or the boy ends up physically harming the girl. So the girls know when to draw a line and say, okay, enough is enough, I'm going to complain, and then follow through that. Third, I would like to say a lot of gender-based violence takes place at homes within closed walls, which is not discussed outside, which is a terrible tragedy. And with this lockdown, we have come to know there has been an increase in gender-based violence at homes, which again is so sad, because the girl who is locked at home, the woman, the mother, the daughter, whoever it is, she's facing more violence because the men are at home only. And men are at home and they have access to alcohol, so they're drinking more, so they're hitting the woman more. So this girl who maybe initially was able to leave the home, talk to her friends, go out and at least be out of the radar of physical violence, is facing all the violence at home. And secondly, the access to telephone is much less, because the perpetrator, the person who is inflicting violence, is at home. So the girl cannot actually call in the helpline. So even though the government has installed helplines, there are NGOs who have helplines, their number of calls which are coming through these helplines have gone down, which is funny, because the violence has gone up, but the reporting has gone down, because the girls and women who are facing violence at home, I will not say girls, women, even the boys who are facing violence at home, boys may be hit and threatened and whatever, thrashed at home, whipped at home. Even the boys are not able to call on the helpline, because the person who's hitting them is right there in front of them. So we have to empower our children once they come back to school, or if we have a helpline, how they talk, what are the kind of language they use, so that they're able to put it across that I am facing violence at home and I need help. That kind of confidence has to be there in the system by the girls and the boys, so that when they ask for help, help should be with them. And gender-based violence is something which is so cross-cutting. It happens at all ages, all class of society, everywhere. And it happens against girls, against transgenders, against boys. Boys, I would like to say, you all must be knowing there was a study done by WCD which says that more than 53% of boys have been sexually abused, which is huge. And it's never reported, because the boys never report the fact that they are abused or physically abused or sexually abused, because it is not manly of them, which is sad. Anybody who has faced abuse will know that it is very, very, very traumatic. So this feeling of confidence in the system, whether it is your teacher, an elder parent, or somebody who you can talk to in case you need help, has to be developed very strongly. And that is why I keep stressing helpline is very critical. And helpline as in supporting in the long way. Okay, I call for help, but then what happens? If I call for help, who's coming to help me? That structure has to be put in place by the state. And there's no getting away. The state is responsible for health and well-being of its citizens.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your wonderful presentation and patient giving the answers to all the questions. Now I request you to conclude the remarks, and then our SPD will conclude the session.
Okay. I think I have spoken enough about school health and adolescent health and importance of state owning up the health and wellness of its adolescent and of course youth. And I would like to say that Puducherry has shown the way to a lot of states in India as to how things are done well. Implementation of programs are the best in Puducherry. So I think this is another program which Puducherry can take a long way and show to the rest of India. We can train our teachers, we can train our principals, so that they impart the right age appropriate information to children, and we have a much healthier and happier population in schools.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am, sparing your valuable time to us. I think it was 1 hour 15 minutes. I think
Yes.
it was. Thank you so much for sparing the time. I think
No,
from
welcome.
our office, from director sir, I think I request you, please visit Puducherry whenever it is
Yes.
possible to you. We will
Well,
be wholeheartedly welcome you to Puducherry, ma'am. Thank you
absolutely.
for your valuable time. I
Yeah.
think in the last, I think yesterday when we had discussing with our director sir was saying that the role of teachers is differently changing. Now I think after your speech, we come to know that with all these intricacies that are involved in school education, I hope the role of teacher is completely different now from now onwards. I think we need to be counselors. We need to guide them. We need to make them to know what is good and what is right, what is the true education is all about. And I
Yes.
hope with your small note, I think we all make a note of it, and we will try to implement in our schools. I think we have very
Absolutely.
good number of teachers working so hard for the welfare of the children, and hope your presentation will bring more motivation to them to further go ahead, ma'am. Thank you so much for your valuable time. Thank you from all
Yeah.
the teachers, all
Thank
the
you.
head of the schools, and we are eagerly looking after this program of school and program in UT of Puducherry. And as you promised, I think we will be going ahead for a first phase itself. Let us
Yes.
see, because I don't know what's the official note
No,
of it.
I will try and
Because
put you
since
in.
we don't come under aspiration, yes, yes, yes,
No,
yes.
doesn't
Thank
matter.
you so much for this offering. Thank, yeah, yeah.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for your time, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye bye. Bye.